Greetings, cinephiles. Are you looking for a movie analysis podcast that stands above the rest? Then look no further than Collateral Cinema, the only movie podcast that matters.
We analyze good movies, we analyze bad movies, and yes, we also analyze the in-betweens of the world of cinema.
So if you like what you hear, find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.
And yes, my friends, we are 420 friendly. So when you listen to us, smoke it if you've got it. And now, here's a new episode of Collateral Gaming. The show starts right now.
I'm Ashley Chancellor.
And I'm Bo Maddox.
And this is Collateral Gaming, the Halloween special. Welcome to Collateral Gaming, the only video game podcast that matters, where we focus on good games, bad games, and everything else in between in the world of gaming. We are podcasting straight from somewhere in South Texas, and yes, my friends, we are a 420 friendly podcast, so whatever you have, smoke it if you've got it. And happy Halloween, folks!
Happy Halloween! It's the spooky season. Time to play spooky games.
Spooky games, yeah.
Spooky games.
Yeah, we've got a real spooky one here for you. We're actually recording about an hour till midnight, so halfway through this recording, or maybe towards the end of it, we may actually be on actual Halloween day here, which would be pretty cool. But today we are talking about the 1995 Super Famicom game Clock Tower, not to be confused with its sequel, which was called Clock Tower in the US on the PlayStation 1.
It's a little confusing there, but I mean, they're both fundamentally kind of the same game.
Fundamentally, yeah. And we covered the PlayStation 1 version of Clock Tower, or what is actually known in Japan as Clock Tower 2, on our Collateral Gaming bonus round episode last season. We covered that along with Resident Evil Survivor, and that was a fun time. I actually was genuinely impressed. Had not played the game all the way through, but I really, really enjoyed what I did get to play. And whenever I was kind of shooting the shit with you and trying to figure out what games we wanted to do this season, you suggested, well, why don't we go back and do the original Clock Tower?
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of seemed like the right game to do here because, I mean, it's a very atmospheric game for something that came out on, SNES and everything. So, I mean, it's really dripping with just all types of really gothic horror, kind of.
Definitely. And, going back and now playing the original Super Famicom game, I can definitely see where the second game, the PlayStation 1, got, kind of its roots from. But this game also kind of defined the survival horror genre in a lot of ways, well before Resident Evil ever did.
Yeah, and it's kind of strange that a lot of people really don't talk about this series that much in that particular context, I mean...
Well, owing to that is the fact that this game was never localized in the United States. I mean, this game was released in Japan on the Super Famicom. It later got ports for the PlayStation 1 and Windows and the WonderSwan of all things, but none of those actually ever happened in the States. So if you mention Clock Tower, most people think of the PlayStation 1 game, and not the PlayStation 1 port of this game, but the game that is called Clock Tower 2 in Japan, which is funny because that game actually starts after this game and references the events of the first game.
Yeah.
Which I found a little bit disorienting the first time I played it, but it's a game that you can still pick up and play. I mean, they kind of explain the events of the first game to you within the first, few minutes of the game, but even so, I was happy to be able to go back and play it. And let me tell you, I actually got really acquainted with this game. I have seen every ending that you can get, and there are multiple from H through A, and then there's the secret S ending that you can get where you actually can end up with one of the other characters, one of your friends surviving.
Yeah, it's really interesting how these different playthroughs really vary. like anytime you play this game. I mean, there's a lot of replay value to this.
Yeah, no, there is. I think that actually adds to the replay value, and that's something that it shares in common with the other Clock Tower games, right?
Yeah, it does. I mean, there were like 2 other Clock Tower games that came out after the PS1. There was an actual Clock Tower 2, which was a sequel to the PlayStation game, and then there was Clock Tower 3, which is kind of its own thing in a way.
Right. Yeah. And so the game that we know as Clock Tower on the PlayStation 1 is actually a sequel to this game and references the events of it. It's not clear which of the endings is canon, but I think it's anything from C through S, if I'm not mistaken. Any of the good endings where Jennifer comes out alive, I think, is valid.
Yeah, I mean, the PlayStation game, it makes a lot more sense now having played this, of course, because, I mean, that's what was weird. This was our first actual exposure to this particular series, and, they just kind of threw you right there at the, the main cutscene that's playing before you start the game. It pretty much shows the ending of Clock Tower, the SNES game.
Right.
And I mean, it still doesn't really say what is actually canon there. I mean, I guess if we play through Clock Tower on PS1 again, we might get a better understanding of it, but...
Yeah, I can't remember if they even mention if any of Jennifer's friends ended up alive, because, I mean, that is the one major change you can make by getting the S ending, is that either Laura or Anne, whoever doesn't get killed in the first kill cutscene, can make it out alive, depending on what choices you make.
But not Lottie.
No, Lottie or Lot or however the fuck her name is pronounced does not make it out alive. And yeah, either Laura or Anne has to die in the beginning, depending on which cutscene you get.
Yeah.
Although that cutscene in and of itself kind of really defines the experience that you get. It's after which you get the first chase sequence. So most players are going to investigate the bathroom because it's kind of on your natural path through the mansion, and you even kind of get a little bit of a sound effect, and Jennifer will stop, indicating, hey, go check out what's going on in the bathroom. And so you open it up and you look, and in the shower is Laura hanging dead, and then Bobby the scissor man pops out of the water. I don't know, was he holding his breath?
I mean, yeah, I really, that's one of the things that I really like about this game, is that it really truly plays like a slasher movie. It's like you're playing a real slasher movie and you're playing the final girl.
Yeah, and it's a very simple story. Like any slasher movie, the main plot just revolves around, here's the killer, get away from him, get out. And Jennifer very much embodies the final girl stereotype in a lot of ways.
Oh, all the way. I mean, a particular slasher that, I don't know, I kind of felt like this had the same feel as is probably the Scream series a little bit. It kind of has that vibe, just a lot more supernatural.
Funny enough, this movie was actually inspired by Italian horror.
Oh, okay.
Most notably Phenomena from Dario Argento.
Oh, man, Argento is the shit, let me tell you. Of course, he made Suspiria and Deep Red and Tenebrae, but Phenomenon is interesting because it's very much it's a supernatural movie, but it's about a girl who, if I remember correctly, she has an ability to communicate with insects or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it leads to this whole Giallo mystery.
There are some supernatural aspects, actually, to this game, which is a little bit deceptive. I kind of felt the same way about the other Clock Tower game. But yeah, no, like inspecting the right parts of the environment and then, completing the game to its conclusion, you'll start to see that some things are amiss. And I don't know if that's ever fully explained, but yeah, there it is. I mean, there's your enemy is not just the scissor man, but supernatural forces and that other twin that you get that you encounter at the end of the game, that the blob, Dan
the Blob, yeah,
the cradle under the star. But yeah, and there's just kind of this story that's built up actually over multiple playthroughs because depending on what route you take to get to the end, you're going to get different sides of the story, including a whole subplot with Jennifer's father and him ending up at the mansion.
Yeah, I never really got that playthrough. I just played through it once and got like the C ending or something. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, and I believe in order to get the S ending, you actually have to do specifically that playthrough. But for all of the other endings, it doesn't matter. It's just whichever one you can get to. But you can either encounter Simon Barrows in the jail cell, or you can encounter Jennifer's father, Walter's corpse, along with some notes. And either way, you actually learn about the true nature of Mary Barrows and some other mysterious goings on. And of course, during your playthrough, if you learn about the clock tower, you'll end up getting a good ending. So there are some mysteries surrounding the clock tower. This whole thing with time will cause adherence.
I didn't get that at all.
I didn't get that either, but
Yeah.
I know if you flip the switches, that's what makes Bobby die. So something like that. I mean, Bobby doesn't actually seems to not like the sound. Is he the same Scissorman that's in the PS1 game?
I think so. I mean, the PS1 game is very much a continuation of the story, obviously. Like I said, it has pretty much the ending of the first game, like at the beginning of this game. So I think so. I mean, they're very similar.
Yeah, I want to say the Scissorman in that game must be. I mean, he's just he kind of looks the same, except here he's actually a kid. You're being chased by a child with giant scissors. a very powerful child, a strong demon child.
A strong demon child. Oh, God.
Not only him, but also Mary. She's a character that you can encounter, and depending on the circumstances under which you encounter her, she can lead you to a very quick ending, lock you in a jail cell with a man that may actually eat you alive, or you may have the sense to run away from her if you get a chance to. And then, of course, the blob man at the end. But mainly the Scissor Man. And what's notable about this game, I think, is that there is almost no music except for when a pursuit sequence starts. So most of the game, you're just going to be listening to Jennifer's footsteps, moving slowly through each hall of the mansion. And then when the music starts, you know that something's up.
Yeah.
I think it really adds to that horror feel. And I think we mentioned this earlier. This game, you can get through a playthrough very quickly, and yet the game is surprisingly slow-paced.
Yeah, I've never played a game like that where you can finish this in literally an hour, but it still feels like it's going at a glacial pace. You know?
Yeah. And I think that kind of adds to the tension, because the more you run, you actually deplete Jennifer's health or stamina or anxiety or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, I noticed that. That was... I don't know if I really like that mechanic, you know?
I think it forces the player to move through slowly and kind of take in your surroundings and kind of move at a pace. And it's really not all that difficult to work around either, because when you run, you deplete some of that, but then you can just sit still for a few minutes and replenish your health or drink a drink to do it. I think that there are various beverages that you can consume, although the only one I know of is the one in the kitchen, which has a chance to knock you out and end you up in the jail cell. So,
Wonder what kind of liquor that was.
yeah, no
It's
kidding.
like, Jesus Christ.
Mary can fix that cocktail for you as well if you have not learned the truth about her upon encountering her in the phone room. Another thing that's kind of cool about this game, which helps with subsequent playthroughs, is that rooms themselves will actually swap locations. And so no one playthrough of this game is ever going to be exactly the same. I mean, even consulting a map online isn't going to help you very much, because there are various rooms that will swap locations with others. And so you never quite know where you're going or what you're going to find there. Key items will also appear or spawn in different locations depending on what you're doing, or even what items that are needed to progress are going to be different.
I mean, the other thing about that is just there's a real sameness to a lot of the backgrounds in that game, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of sameness. So it's very easily to get kind of lost, you know?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a similar feel to the Spencer Mansion in that regard because I
Kind
mean,
of.
yes, there is a lot of the same, but that also helps make the experience a little bit more disorienting because you're not quite sure which hall you're in at a glance. You might forget, what floor you're on, or God forbid you play this game and then leave for a day or two and then pick it back up again and you're trying to remember what have I done in this playthrough. You can take a quick look through your inventory and see what items you have, but even that's not going to tell you what all you've done. And so there is going to be a lot of backtracking and kind of just learning the mansion. But unlike other survival horror titles, it's not so easily learned like the back of your hand because every playthrough it's slightly different.
Yeah, I mean,
And the random encounters can, really add to that as well because at different times when you enter a room, you may encounter the Scissor Man or you may not. Sometimes there's going to be a fake out where a cat pops up. And there are also all these inexplicable items that are placed in different areas where you may not even know what to do with that item. You may not have a use for it in that particular playthrough, but upon going through the game again, you might find a situational use for that one item.
yeah, I mean, I guess that's an okay mechanic. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it keeps you on your toes. I think that, and some of the endings can be played kind of subsequently due to the way that this game loads. I mean, one thing about this game that is fairly forgiving is that whenever you die, the game actually loads you right back in whatever room you died in. So there is a little bit of a trial and error aspect to it. There's a one mirror I remember in the master bedroom that if you look at, a hand will come out and choke you. And if you're not fast enough at hitting the panic button, you might die. So then you'll learn, okay, I'm not going to inspect that mirror next time. But I like how the game at least drops you wherever you left. So it's not too punishing. There's just kind of a, check everything out and see what happens. Feel to it, right?
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah. So you have played through the sequel, right?
The sequel to
To this game, the PS1 one.
PS1. Oh yes, of course I have. I mean, it's more or less fundamentally the same game. Just maybe, I don't know.
Upgraded. I mean, for one, the Scissor Man is actually a persistent threat in that game. He is constantly stalking you within the encounters that you have. I mean, the game kind of divides itself a little bit so that you have the sections where you're trapped with the Scissor Man and sections where you're just interacting with people. But during those segments of the game where he's pursuing you, he's constantly pursuing you. In this game, it's a little bit more scripted, although, like I said, there are random encounters. But he's fairly easy to get rid of. I mean, if you just run into a room that has a good hiding spot, or you run into somewhere where you can lay a trap, you can get rid of him and he won't bother you again until you have run into another random encounter. What's nice about this game is that you can kind of prep these rooms up, like for instance, when you go into the master bedroom over on the first floor, there's a bed that you can hide under, but there's also a parrot in that room.
Yeah, that parrot will actually alert the Scissor Man or Scissor Boy, I guess it were. He'll totally alert you to your position there. So it's kind of cool how in this game there's little things that you have to take into consideration if you want to actually, get through the game unscathed.
Right. And so, for me, I started kind of building up a way that I would play through this game, a structure, and be like, okay, when I go into this room to get the perfume, let me also take care of the parrot first. So if I need to run into this, I can.
Yeah, it seems like it would be very easy to actually miss something important and get really far into the game, and then you're just like, fuck,
Yeah.
This one item, it just fucked me over.
Right, exactly. Some items are just in the strangest of places. I mean, I remember thinking, what if I didn't go here and get the perfume, or I didn't get the black robe? I mean, I would have been sitting around, wandering around the mansion for, possibly hours looking for this shit if I wasn't as thorough as I am in checking everything.
Yeah.
But it is worth it, to just kind of, again, it's a very survival horror aspect. You go into each room and you just kind of check everything out. I mean, there aren't even particular items that inspecting it was going to affect your ending. If you don't click on this particular item, you're going to get the bad ending. I remember thinking, there's a garage that you can go into, and there's a car, and there's a car key in that room. But if you try to start the car, she goes, but the others. And I'm like, no, fuck you. Take the car, get out of there, get help, and then they save your friends. But as it turns out, if you continue to try to start the car, if you do it, I think 3 times, she actually will leave, and you get a bad ending.
Yeah, that's right. The scissor man comes out from that good old horror trope of the killer in the back seat. Just comes up, you see the scissors, shing, shing, and then, yeah, that's the bad ending.
There are actually 2 bad endings associated with that.
Yeah.
If you watch one, if your friends die, and you get that optional death, she does make it home, but it's stated that she was found in her room dead. And I don't know what the implications of that are, but I like how, in particular, you can. I think if Laura dies, so if you go to the bathroom and get that scene, Anne's death is triggered by walking into a corridor, getting a scream, which I think has somewhat of a random chance, and then looking out the window.
Yeah, apparently if you don't look out that window, it doesn't trigger it at all, right?
She doesn't die. If you don't look out the window, she doesn't die. But what's funny is if she does die, there's actually a secret item that you can unlock. You can get the lantern in that room, and then you can get the key using the lantern, which unlocks the jail cell, meaning that you can prevent Lottie from coming over and dying to take you out. Although she'll still die in the caves if she's spared in that encounter. But
Lottie was not meant for this world.
Nope.
No, she wasn't.
Nope. But yeah, and apparently I didn't even know this, but I was watching some videos, and you can even jump out that window if you're in a chase sequence and land in the pool in the courtyard underneath.
Holy crap, that's crazy.
Yeah. Depending on when Jennifer's in the chase state, there's kind of an adrenaline system going on.
Yeah, that's something that was translated into the PlayStation game as well. It's the idea of like panic horror, you know, something that would kind of be picked up by Dino Crisis later on in the PlayStation's lifespan. And I mean, I like that mechanic, you know, it really gives you that oh shit kind of quality to it, you know?
Yeah, while you're in panic mode, Jennifer will actually constantly run, and it won't deplete her health. And she can also climb over things, jump over things, cross chasms that she couldn't normally do in that panic. So, like, for instance, there's one room up in the upstairs where you have to move a box in order to climb over there. Well, if you go into that room and you haven't moved the box, but you're in pursuit mode, she'll actually climb that cabinet and move over. You just have to hit the panic button to do it. Or there's a chasm that you need to lay a wooden plank across to progress normally. But if you're in panic mode, she can jump across that, and you actually have to use the rope to get down. And I didn't even know what the fuck the rope was used for.
I never even ended up using the rope in my playthrough. So.
I never did either.
Yeah.
It's a situational item that if for some reason you didn't use the wooden plank and you jumped across during a pursuit sequence, you can manage to not get yourself stuck that way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and same thing with the lantern and the key that was aforementioned. You know, that's something that can only happen depending on how you play. If Anne is the character that gets killed off by walking into the foyer or the courtyard, then Laura can be found in a suit of armor in the phone room.
Huh.
But
really?
if you don't inspect the suit of armor, she's okay.
Now, I inspected this suit of armor, so that never happened, I guess.
Well, in your playthrough, you came across Laura, which means that Anne's death happened via the Scream corridor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit different depending on who. See, again, it's situational, so it's whoever dies, the other optional death that you can get for the other character. So, yeah. But Jennifer can end her adventure alone atop the clock tower or with a friend, I think, which is only achieved in the S ending. The A ending features the other character that managed to survive, but they die during that last scramble. So I guess the S ending is the best ending. That being said, I think the C ending is the most fun. That's the one that you got. That's the most action-packed sequence that you can get. It's actually, I think, the only one that after you get through the elevator, you actually end up being able to directly control the character. So it's more than just hitting the panic button at specific events. So and actually has her run away and kick Mary off of the ladder, and then wrestle the Bobby or the Scissor Man atop the clock tower. So that one's actually a lot of fun.
It actually was. I really had a good time, I guess. I mean, as short as it was, you know.
It's very short. I think that's where the replayability comes in. It's like playing through the game multiple times is kind of ideally what you want to do, and being able to again, get different parts of the story that you wouldn't normally get in one playthrough. Also, save the crows.
Save the crows, definitely.
The crows come in handy. I also didn't know that if you run back into that room, the crows will help you.
Really?
During a chase sequence, yeah. There are so many little secrets that I didn't pick up on because I just didn't do that specific thing.
Makes you wonder if there's any real Easter eggs in this game, or maybe even like some secret endings.
Possibly. I mean, the S ending is secret, technically. If you go to the ending list, which the game does keep track of what endings you've cleared, it only gives you A through H. S is actually a secret ending that you get by doing everything right and by playing through a specific pathway.
Well, that makes sense. S for secret.
Right. Yeah. So I think to get that one, you actually have to encounter Walter. You have to not get the optional death. So if Laura or Anne dies, you want to make sure that Anne or Laura doesn't die. You have to save the crows. You have to learn about Mary and the clock tower. And if you do all of that and you go to the 3rd floor with the elevator, you'll get the best ending. But that's a lot to keep track of, especially, like I said, if maybe you haven't picked up a playthrough in a while. Like, I was trying to get actually a specific ending, and I had put the game down for a couple days, and I picked it back up again, and I forgot what I was doing.
Sounds about right. This doesn't seem like the type of game where you should span it out over a couple days. You should just blow through it in like one day.
You honestly can. I mean, it's a very fast game, even considering playing through all of the playthroughs. And again, some of them you can actually trigger due to the way that the game loads. So, yeah, you don't have to always start all the way over again whenever you complete a specific playthrough or you get a specific ending. But so this game was developed by Human Entertainment. They're actually mostly notable for the Clock Tower series, I believe.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I don't really think they really worked on much else of anything. I think they did a lot of licensed games in the back of the day, maybe.
A lot of sports games, actually, as it turns out. Sports and racing games, which is interesting. But Clock Tower is really, I think, all they're known for, at least in the West. Which, again, is a very niche point-and-click, survival horror game as it is. Let's talk about that, actually, because we haven't mentioned the point-and-click interface.
Yeah, that's kind of what makes this game stand out a little bit. It's a point-and-click horror adventure. And, I mean, point-and-click, that was a very popular mechanic at the time. I mean, especially with, like, PC games and a few PlayStation games here or there, like Discworld or Broken Swords or whatnot. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I think that this is probably the most accessible iteration of that type of gameplay, Like, even on a console controller like the PlayStation controller, it's pretty seamless, honestly.
Yeah, and I think like some like the early Resident Evil or Silent Hill games, which used fixed angles and tank controls to disorient you, this game's point-and-click interface can kind of work to that advantage, where like Bobby's starting to chase you and you're trying to get away, but you gotta make sure that you point the cursor in this direction and start moving,
Certainly, yeah.
Although there are some handy shortcuts, like if you hit the L and R buttons or L1 and R buttons, you can actually do a quick run to the left or to the right, which is nice.
I found that to be the most useful part of the controls, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, once you get over the controls, they're not that hard to master. They're very simple, and I do appreciate that, but it does take a little bit of getting used to if you've never played a point-and-click game
before. I can't really say that that's a style of game that you can find nowadays. You know,
Really, you can't. I mean, I know there's a new Monkey Island game coming out, so
yeah. I mean, there might be some indie developers that have made some games with that style, maybe that I'm not aware of. You know,
yeah.
but I mean, I think that's what makes it pretty cool that they actually did this in a horror game like that. You know, I mean, it kind of helps the exploration feel, you know, a little more. What's the word? Well, whatever that word is, that's what it is. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of weird also that this game isn't compatible with the Super Nintendo accessory that was a mouse. I forget what
Yeah,
that was called,
but it was you could use a PlayStation mouse with
on
it, though.
the PlayStation version.
On the PlayStation version. Yeah.
Yeah, they later ported this, and it's actually called Clock Tower: The First Fear. Again, not released anywhere outside Japan, which is weird because you would think that they would take advantage of the opportunity of the sequel coming out to go ahead and release the newer port of the original game. But oddly enough, while it does make some improvements, there are also some detractions with that. I mean, there a little bit of the experience is lost. I'm actually glad that we played it the way that we did because we had to emulate this. That's really the only way that you can play this.
Yeah, especially with an English patch. It's the only way that you can play this in English.
Right, you have to have an English patch, which means that, you know, your peer-to-peer playthroughs of this game may be a little bit different depending on which English patch you went with. Which
Now,
we actually ended up using different ones, I think, on your PS Classic versus me on my computer.
I think so. And another thing is that you can actually get fan-made reproduction cartridges of this game as well for the Super Nintendo. So I mean, if you want to play it on original hardware, you can.
That sounds actually really cool. I would actually like to try something out like that.
Yeah, it does, right? I mean, that's something that's really cool that's come out of the retro gaming world in the last 5 or 10 years is repro cartridges. It's like, well, hell yeah. I mean, it's like the way to get like hard to find games from that era. Or even like new like homebrew games.
Yeah, no kidding. I kind of would like to try the PC version of this actually.
Yeah, that actually would be pretty cool. I mean, to be fair, you did emulate it on your laptop, but
but I actually played the Super Nintendo version on RetroArch.
Oh yeah, that's right. So you had to use the keyboard controls and everything.
I used the keyboard controls, yeah.
Yeah.
Which for this game actually kind of work. It's even if you're using with the keyboard controls, I mean, the point and click interface actually kind of it's not so bad. Similar to how games with tank controls aren't so bad with arrow keys. I did also play this by hooking up my DualShock controller to my computer, and had favorable results with that as well.
Okay, I see.
And it plays pretty well on the PS Classic. I mean, as far as the emulation goes, there weren't too many issues. I mean, some coloration bugs and whatnot.
I had a couple of well, I want to say they were freezes. I probably just hit the pause button, but I don't know.
One of those times, at least, that's actually exactly what you did.
yeah. But there was at least one other time where it seemed to freeze for a second. I was just like, what the fuck?
Well, the pause in this game is weird because, like, if you have the music on, like if you're in a chase sequence, the music will keep playing, but you just won't be able to move anything.
And if you're in a place where there is no music and you just pause it, the only way that you're going to know that it's paused is if you try to unpause it and everything. It's like, God damn it. Why does that have to be so janky?
Yeah, like the cursor will just not move. It just won't do anything.
Nope.
Which is interesting. But, I mean, that kind of tracks with some of these older games. But, yeah, I mean, this was definitely one of the earliest examples of real survival horror. I mean, there is typically no way to actually combat anybody aside from a couple scripted events where you can quickly grab an item.
And usually that's in the context of you already being attacked, you know? So you have to kind of really check everything to figure out what is what. Like in that one barn with the jail cell, the one shed, you know, you have that one wooden board right there that you use.
It's actually interesting because my instinct was actually to use that, but for you ended up hiding in the box, which I didn't know you could do, which doesn't do you any good. If you hide, then Mary finds you anyway. But but again, the game reloads, so you know you could just kind of start it back over and try something else, which is fun. There's a little bit of that trial and error aspect, but yeah, I like how the sequel kind of expands on that a little bit. You know, there are definitely a lot more trap elements to it or momentary items that you can grab. And I think they did a little bit of a better job with just better hardware. But by no means is this game lacking, I think. I mean, I think for its time, it's especially compelling. I think that the atmosphere is super tense. And creepy. I mean, I kept expecting Scissorman to pop out anytime I went into a room. There are some rooms that serve no other purpose than to do that, by the way.
Totally. Like, for instance, the aforementioned bathroom. Like, that's totally one of them.
Yeah, the bathroom where there's a ballroom.
Yeah.
That serves no other purpose than to do that. A couple of the rooms that you get key items that you need to progress or get to certain scenes of the game are also hot spots. So there's a little bit of that, you know, oh, hey, shit. Okay, let me run away and then let me come back later.
Yeah, just run away, hide, let the threat go away, and then go back and get it. Yeah.
And then go back. You know, you kind of breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. But again, when you're exploring new rooms, you never quite know what's going to happen. And you start to see shit shake and you're like, okay. Or maybe you might hear music play. Like I like how the music room just starts randomly playing music, and then you ended up inspecting the little radio player, and that actually ended up turning the music off, so that thing's just coming on by itself. That's creepy.
It sure is, yeah.
When it happened to me, I actually thought it was a bug. I didn't know why the music started playing, and then I inspected something and it stopped. And you never even want to stay too long in a room because shit, you know? Homeboy might come out and get you.
He might.
But yeah, this game was directed by one Hifumi Kono, who in particular actually wanted to pay homage to Mr. Argento. And
I do get that. I mean, there are a lot of real giallo moments in this particular game, you know, which is funny because it happens in Norway. That's where this is set in. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so apparently he was inspired by Italian horror, and if that's not cool to you, I don't know what is. I mean,
Italian horror is totally fucking awesome, by the way. I mean, if you haven't seen stuff like Suspiria or like Fulci's A Zombie or something like that, give it a look, but especially look at Giallo. because that's what this feels like. It feels like maybe Mario Bava or like you said, Argento.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, definitely. And apparently there was a pretty small budget and staff for this. This was kind of more of an experimental project, so to speak.
I can believe that. Yeah,
Which is why the game is so short and why it doesn't have the mouse support.
that makes sense.
So, and I like that, when they ended up having better resources and better hardware, they really kind of took this series in a different direction. And I'd love to play through all the way through the PlayStation 1 game and its sequels to kind of really get that full experience because, I like what I saw here.
Yeah. Clock Tower 2 on the PlayStation, I will say it's nothing like this game, and I don't really think it's that good. It's not nearly as good as these two games, but it's probably worth it to try to play through it. I mean, I've tried to play it, and I kind of got stuck somewhere, so...
All right, what about the third one, which is apparently completely disconnected from...
The third one it almost feels like they just took the mechanics of Resident Evil and applied it to this particular style of game, the panic gameplay,
Really?
They really refined it. Like, it's not a point and click game anymore. It's more third person. It's more like third person, I believe,
Okay.
So it has that Capcom aesthetic to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll have to check that out. I would like to see a remake of this game. And
Yeah.
PlayStation 1 Clock Tower as well, but yeah, I mean, I think this game is sorely lacking. I mean, there's no like in-game map, for instance.
Yeah, there's a lot of quality of life features that could be added to this.
A lot of quality of life improvements that I think would be nice in a way to bring this, this game to a Western audience. I would 100% be down for a remake, or even if there was a good like fan remake out there that I'm not aware of.
Yeah, maybe there is. I don't know.
I'd like to see it because I really think that there's a lot that could be done. You could really even kind of expand on it, make the game a little bit longer, include some extra alternate endings, go balls to the wall, go Silent Hill with it, and have some like weird endings.
Yeah, right.
Right? But yeah, I guess there's not a whole lot more to say about Clock Tower. I mean, anything else that you wanted to add?
Not really. I mean, I kind of struggled to really find much to say about this particular game, I mean, it's good for what it is. It definitely is. It has replay value, and it definitely has atmosphere that you just didn't really see on the Super Nintendo at that time. So it was an interesting playthrough. I guess you say that's my final thoughts on the matter. Interesting playthrough. It's worth it to at least emulate it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this game has a very, very tense, intriguing atmosphere. The sound design in particular is impressive. I like how, just with the absence of a lot of music, kind of just creates its own design, which is nice. Again, there's just kind of that feel of just listening, and despite the fact that it was slow paced, I mean, until I really got to some of the more subsequent playthroughs, that never really bothered me because I felt tense moving and wanting to move slowly through each area to begin with, and kind of just taking it in a little bit at a time was a fun way to enjoy this horror experience.
Yeah, it's not a very urgent game to say the least, even as short as it is.
I will say, yeah, you will need a lot of patience to get through this, and expect there to be quite a bit of backtracking. But if you're a fan of any like Metroidvania style type of games, then you won't be a stranger to that sort of thing.
Yeah,
either.
that's actually an apt comparison to Metroidvanias. Mm-hmm. So this is like the Metroidvania of
survival
horror point and click games, I guess.
There you go. Yeah. Specifically those three things, but yeah, I recommend it. I mean, it's not hard to get a hold of this game. Just get a good emulator. I recommend RetroArch. It's actually great. I don't know why I ever used other emulators to begin with, because
it's the best. Like it's the main like all-encompassing emulator you get for the PS Classic if you mod it, along with Auto Bleem. So yeah, man, RetroArch, it's really awesome. And there's so many different cores to it, man. There's even an RPG Maker core and everything. I think there's even BIOS cores for like certain arcade machines that you can only use certain MAME ROMs with. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a really cool emulator, and it's made to kind of feel like the UI of a console like PS3.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, it is. I like the whole all-in-one interface. Again, it kind of makes me wonder why I ever bothered with other emulators to begin with, because it's everything up to like the PS2 era.
Yeah, roughly PS2. I mean, I think that there's also emulators for Dreamcast and Saturn, and also Atari Jaguar. I mean, I think they even have WonderSwan and Lynx emulators as well, and
No shit.
Virtua Boy. I mean, honestly, next time you boot it up, like look into the load cores and just kind of scroll down there and just see all the stuff that it has. It's really in depth.
Maybe I need to try to play this game on WonderSwan, see how that is.
Wow. Yeah, that would be a thing.
But yeah, I mean, it's not that hard to get set up. You'll just need to download a fan translation patch, and you're good to go. And the translation that I went with actually was fine. I didn't, I understood everything that was going on. Compared at least to its sequel, I think the story is very bare bones. But again, it definitely captures, I think, that slasher film feel,
The Giallo slasher film. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you have to remember about, it goes back to the Italian horror. Like Giallo, that was like the precursor to the slasher movie. Like for instance, look at Bay of Blood by Mario Bava. I mean, that directly influenced Friday the 13th.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
no kidding. But I was pleasantly surprised by it. So I say give it a shot. Check it out. I mean, you're not really going to be paying any amount of money for this
Yeah.
to play it, because there's no really way to play it legally without the actual hardware. And even then, I think, you would need to have a Japanese
Yeah,
Super
you need
Famicom, right?
You need a Super Famicom, yeah.
Because they were region locked, right?
Yeah, they were.
So yeah. Unless you are Japanese and happen to still own a working Super Famicom, you're gonna have to emulate this. But I still recommend it, and in fact, I think that's kind of the best argument for why emulation needs to exist and should be better supported. Because there are a lot of games that you couldn't otherwise play, or that you would need to shell out hundreds of dollars to make happen,
Exactly.
including Fire Emblem of all things.
Oh man, yeah, it's a total godsend if you want to just find some import game that you may have never tried, and even if it's untranslated, like if you can get the gist of the gameplay and everything, you can just play it.
Yeah, but if you're listening to this episode on Halloween, I definitely recommend giving this game a shot. It's very creepy. Play it alone at night with the lights off.
Exactly.
Just kind of get fully into the experience. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I'm glad that we actually decided to talk about this. I mean, we did kind of get into Resident Evil quite a bit this month. It's been a fun, spooky month and a fun season so far of both Collateral Gaming and Cinema.
It's been a very busy month. Like I guess October's are going to be like our busiest month of podcasting from here on out. So yeah, whenever we start our seasons, expect a lot of content to come out in a short amount of time. So, I mean, I'm about to either tonight or tomorrow get the Halloween Ends episode together and get that out. So,
yeah, I mean, like you said, it's kind of our bread and butter with Collateral Media. So, I mean, there's always going to be a lot of content going on in October. And speaking of which, like you said, Halloween Ends, that should be ready by the time this is out. And I'm actually was really excited. We talked about that with Jim from Film Rage.
That was really cool. Yeah, that was our first Halloween episode with a guest host on it. So that was interesting.
And as mentioned before, we did do a deep dive into the Resident Evil franchise. We did Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 2 Remake. Again, collaborating with Collateral Cinema. And for part 2, we also had Dan from Victims and Villains. And that was a lot of fun. You were a part of that as well.
We did the director's cut as well, Resident Evil director's cut.
We did Resident Evil director's cut on the bonus round. And on Collateral Cinema director's cut, we did Resident Evil and the 2002 film and Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City.
Yeah, that was just released today, so go and check that out. Part of our little double feature for Halloween.
Yeah, so if you're starved for survival horror content, look no further. In fact, we're going to be doing more with that with the Silent Hill franchise later this season, so stick around.
Yes, definitely. We're going to do the Silent Hill movie and the first game, right? Or the second one?
I think so. I think I'd like to do a bonus round on the first game, or maybe a couple of them. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out as we get closer to that. Next month with Collateral Gaming, we are going to be talking about Stray. And then we're going to be getting ready for the release of God of War Ragnarok. And you better believe that I am hyped for that, because the original God of War, I think, is in my top 5 video games of all time. Sorry, I said the original God of War. What I meant was God of War 2018.
Yeah, no, the original is too based for you. It's too based for you, Ash.
No, I just really like what they did with the 2018 game. I think it's fantastic, and I haven't actually got into a lot of the other the original trilogy of games, or the various spin-offs, which are a little bit more hack and slash oriented. But yeah, I am so hyped for God of War Ragnarok. We're gonna be picking up part 1 of that next month. That's going to be our spoiler-free game launch review, and then we're going to be doing our full spoiler review part 2 as our holiday special in December.
Excellent.
That month, we're also going to be doing The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds, and we do plan on having Mr. Dan Rockwood from Victims and Villains return for that episode. So
coolness.
Yeah, I love Zelda games. Anybody that follows this podcast knows that we are Zelda lovers. So yeah, and we are also talking about a upcoming Zelda game this season. So
nice.
Hint, hint, wink, wink. That's what's coming out for the rest of this year. What's going on with Collateral Cinema, Bo?
Well, like I said, we're going to have our Halloween Ends episode out here shortly, at least by tomorrow. And in November, we will be tackling Rocky 2. We did Rocky on the podcast maybe 2 or 3 seasons ago, I want to say.
It was one of my first episodes, actually.
Oh, yeah, it was.
That was back in season 1.
It was season 1, that's right, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Damn, that was a while ago. So, yeah, we're doing Rocky 2, and then we're going to kind of continue our little thing with the Monster Squad, doing like kids' team movies, you know, and we're going to do the Goonies.
That was one of my picks this season, and yeah, I'm actually really excited about that, because that's just a childhood classic for me.
It is. And on the director's cut, we're going to be doing a commentary this month. We're going to be doing the live-action Wicked City movie, so look for that.
Fuck yeah, I think we were actually approached by someone.
Yeah.
Or no, it was a Twitter.
It was our Twitter follower, Sean Bateman. He asked us to do it, so it's like, all right, we'll go ahead and do it.
Fuck yeah.
And you know, we also have commentaries on our Patreon, you know, $1 to $5 tiers. You know, we got full-length commentaries, and we're going to have a lot more content coming on that very soon. So become a patron, and we will have new content out very soon.
Patreon. If you're not following Collateral Gaming on Patreon, which I know you're not, because we don't currently have any patrons. We did have one. Maybe he resubscribed. I'll have to double check.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody else subscribed. I'll have to double check. But yeah, check out, donate any amount of money, and you'll get access to our exclusive Let's Play video game commentaries. More to come as soon as I get the hardware to do it, because my capture card fucked up on me.
Damn it.
God damn it.
Damn it.
But hey, that's a problem easily remedied with more money from the Patreon.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Buy us a new capture card, people.
Buy us a new capture card, please. Yeah, because I have so many ideas with what to do with that. Also, check us out on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. The same goes for Collateral Cinema. If you like movies and video games, pop culture podcasts, then check out our shitposting group, Collateral Media Podcasts.
Yeah, that's on Facebook. And we do have a Discord. I mean, it's not very active. We need more followers on Discord, so follow us there. And actually, we might have a subreddit. I don't know. We might actually have a subreddit, so I might have to put some work into that. So,
fuck yeah, man. Well, Bo, thank you for being more active this season. I know we've still got some more stuff coming out later this season that you want to be involved with. So
oh yeah.
That's been a lot of fun, and I'm excited for both podcasts this season. I mean, this is definitely going to be a fun season.
It already has been.
It already has been.
Yeah.
And so you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube. If there is anywhere we are not, let us know. If you are a podcaster, streamer, gamer, fan, listener, hit us up if you want to be on the podcast because we're looking for guests.
Oh, yes. We are always looking for guests for both podcasts. So, yeah.
By the way, happy Halloween, Bo.
Happy Halloween, man.
It's officially midnight as
It's officially
we're
midnight.
recording.
It is officially Halloween. Hell yeah, guys. Officially Halloween.
I think that's a perfect place to end it.
It's a perfect place to end it. Exactly.
So, guys, have a safe and happy Halloween. If there's anybody in the local San Antonio area who is giving out decent quality drugs to children, let me know their address. Give me their details.
Yes,
So,
we need all the drugs.
I want to give them a stern talking to.
Yeah, right. Start
Oh my
talking.
God, that's disgusting. Where?
Stupid.
That being said, I have been Ashley Chancellor.
And I am the blob at the end of Clock Tower. I guess. No, I'm Bo Maddox.
And this has been Collateral Gaming. Happy Halloween, folks! Collateral Gaming is a Collateral Media podcast. All music and game clips are owned by their respective creators and are used for educational purposes only. Please don't sue us. We're poor.